The last review I did was on the Goly Dynamic EQ suite, which is 2 units, approximately 3 rack units high, and it was 2 shelves, 2 bells, crazy feature set, lots of precision, very, very useful units. Go and check out my review for those. The only bummer about those is that they've been discontinued, but they've been replaced by a new unit called the CrossCOMPressionEQ, which is only 2 units high, and it has a lot of the same features as the Dynamic suite. It has some new features. We're gonna take a look at it today, try to wrap our head around this complicated and very useful device, and we're gonna put it through its paces with some examples, and we'll talk about the pros and cons and why you should or should not buy it. Okay, so the unit consists of 2 sides. We're talking about the low side first. So the low side is either a Baxandall shelf or a bell. And our bandwidth goes from 0.1 octaves all the way to wide, which I believe is 6 octaves. And our frequencies go from 17 hertz all the way up to 834 hertz. Now these controls are day-taunted pots, and we have 4 choices in between each of these settings. So I was a little worried that there wouldn't be enough hash marks in between the frequencies to do accurate logging and recall, but it's no problem at all. It's really easy to tell where it is in between here. So that's pretty good. When you're working on the shelves, if you get below 0.1, you start getting kind of a resonant shelf with a dip or boost, depending if you're boosting or cutting. So you get kind of that shelf that comes over and then down a little bit and then, you know, up back to flat. So you have lots of different shapes there for the shelf. When it comes to the attacking release, we have a variety of available options. 0.05 milliseconds, very fast, and then through to 60 milliseconds. I was a little concerned at the lack of options between 10 milliseconds and 40 milliseconds, as we normally like to have, you know, 20, 25, 30, 35 are all really useful attack settings to put in here. But you know what? Playing with our ratio and our compression control, I found that I can usually get the sound that I'm hoping for regardless of the lack of actual numerical settings here. Our release goes from a very fast 0.1 second release all the way to 1.2 seconds, and then we have these 3 automatic release ones that go from slower to faster. Now you notice that the 0.1 and the A3 and the 0.05 attack are all in red, and this 0.15 is in yellow, this 0.2 is in yellow, and those indicate when you're getting into kind of a danger zone for going too fast and maybe creating some distortion. So Gustav included those controls, even though they might end up with some ugly sounds, but sometimes they'll end up with just the right thing. So they're there for you, and those colors are just a reminder that, you know, be careful what you're doing, listen carefully. We have this row of switches here, bell and shelf. We also have this res, HR, and off, and this is controlling our threshold and compression range. So off means that there's gonna be no compression happening, which is handy if you wanna use this just as an EQ. HR stands for headroom, and that brings the threshold down a little bit, and this is supposed to be aimed towards loudness processing, maybe rather than shaping the transients and dynamics creatively. The res situations for resolution. You have more range of control on this compression knob, and it allows you to shape the sound more thoroughly. So usually I'm using it on res because I'm not usually using this for loudness processing as much as just shaping the sound. We have a hard and soft knee control as well, and they work very similar to the DAQ and DSQ of the Dynamic EQ suite. We have our gain control here. Again, this is day-taunted pots with steps in between, and we have 10 plus 10 and minus 10 dB of gain there, which is a really hefty range, probably suiting mixing engineers more than mastering engineers with 10 dB, but I find myself cruising around 6 dB quite often. Our compression control is a combined threshold and ratio, just like the dynamic control on the Dynamic EQ suite. And now here we have a very interesting knob, the cross compression knob. What this does is it sends the control voltage for the compression over as an expansion signal to the high side, so that when this is compressing, it's going to expand the other side according to our compression settings here. So that's a very cool setting. On the DAQ, there was just a switch that would do this, but this you can control what ratio you're sending to the other side. So you can control how much expansion is going to the other side. And you have a huge range of control here with all these stops on the detonted pot. Our side chain has a high pass filter on this side, which is something that was also not on the Dynamic EQ suite, which is good because you can cut the subs from the side chain or even up to 234 Hertz if you want to be grabbing the low mids and having the kick affect things less. So that's very cool as well. One thing I really like about the Dynamic EQs in all of their forms from Goly is this net metering VU here. So when you boost the gain, you can see the needle goes up, up to 10 dB. And then when compression happens, you can see whether you're coming back to zero gain relative to the original signal or not. So very, very useful. I don't know why all compressors don't have this kind of metering, but it is the absolute best. Okay, now on the high side, we have a very similar set of controls with only a few differences. So again, we have our frequency, which is a detonted pot. We have our Q, which has the same bandwidth settings. I'd like to point out this W though, right, I said it's about 6 octaves, but the idea here is that it covers most of the spectrum, which is interesting because that allows you to use this stereo dynamic EQ as a stereo compressor. Almost. We'll talk about that when we do the examples. Attack and release, we have the same timings and settings as we had on the other side. The switches do the same thing on the high side as well. Gain compression, cross compression is the same. So something that this unit does that the DAQ didn't was we can feed the compression signal from the highs back to the low side however much we want. And we can actually expand the low side using the high compression side this time. So lots of applications here, very cool stuff. Something you could do with this is if you're compressing the snare, for example, you could have it expanding a low mid signal on that side to make the snare sound beefier. Now, something that's different about this side is the master gain. And this is something that I missed on the Dynamic suite, which is a gain for the overall unit. So we can set this to have a unity gain through the unit so that when we compare it using the bypass control, the unit bypass, we have level matching happening, which helps us to A/B it more accurately. So those are the controls. Let's see how it sounds.
I keep on wondering where took you away. Still feeling you're there somewhere in these eyes. I keep on wondering where took you away. Still feeling you're there somewhere in these eyes. mysterious lights, mysterious lights, mysterious lights, mysterious lights, mysterious lights, mysterious lights, mysterious. Keep on wondering where took you away. Still feeling you're there somewhere in these eyes. Keep on wondering where took you away. Still feeling you're there somewhere in these eyes. Keep on wondering where took you away. Still feeling you're there somewhere in these eyes. Keep on wondering where took you away. Still feeling you're there somewhere in these eyes. Keep on wondering where took you away. Still feeling you're there somewhere in these eyes. Keep on wondering where took you away. Still feeling you're there somewhere in these eyes. Keep on wondering where took you away. Still feeling you're there somewhere in these eyes. Keep on wondering where took you away. Still feeling you're there somewhere in these eyes. Keep on wondering where took you away. Still feeling you're there. Mysterious lights, 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 keep on wondering where took you away. Still feeling you're there somewhere in these eyes. Keep on wondering where took you away. Still feeling you're there somewhere in these eyes. Keep on wondering where took you away. Still feeling you're there somewhere in these eyes. Keep on wondering where took you away. Still feeling you're there. Mysterious lights, mysterious lights, mysterious lights, mysterious lights, mysterious lights, mysterious lights.
You can see from that there's a ton of different applications we can use this for, and there's no way we can show them all in this video or we'll just be going on and on for hours. Lots of uses, very practical, very useful. As far as the pros and cons go, there's a lot of pros, among which we have perfect recall with the controls, with the detented pots and the switches. We have a lot of versatile options in terms of our compression and our interaction between the two bands and selected frequencies and so on. The net metering is very cool, it's very useful. And we just have a high quality signal path as well, with good headroom, low noise, low distortion, and good left-right matching between the channels. As far as the cons go, I miss the sidechain emphasis that the DAQ had, but it's not that big of a deal. It's not a deal breaker to me. It's just like a little bit of a handy thing that I miss. And I find the attack and release settings to be a little bit limited, but that's mostly coming from using these units that have so many options for the attack and release. They're really not that limiting, but I do miss them a little bit. As far as the cons go though, that's pretty much it. Like I can't even really think of a reason why you wouldn't want this. Like why you wouldn't watch this video and just be like, I need to have this because it's just ridiculously useful, because it is. Similar units that you can get that do things like this, you can obviously get the Dynamic Suite, the original one, if you can find them used online. And you can also get all those units we talked about in these reviews, which are the BSS single unit ones, which aren't suitable for mastering. I'm not gonna do all that list. You can watch the previous review if you want to get all of those suggestions. The street price is very reasonable for what you're getting, because you're really getting 2 stereo compressors and 2 dynamic EQs that can be shelves or bells. Plus this dynamic interaction that you get with the cross compression is something that you can't find anywhere else in the analog realm. Even the DAQ, which kind of has that, only really has a hint of it, whereas these have like a nicely fleshed out version of it. Go get one. What are you waiting for?